Hello and welcome to today's pre-show for the podcast. I always, for those of you who do not know and are just tuning into the podcast or watching it, I always just riff for 5 minutes before we get to the actual topics, just to be conversational. And yes, this is undoubtedly the worst hat I own, and I got it in slightly silly circumstances. I work at a warehouse, and one of the companies that we distribute for had stuff that was being discontinued, so they allowed, as a fundraiser for employees who had issues, they put the stuff for sale. And one of the bosses, when they saw this hat, said, "Oh, we can't sell this. We have to save it for Peter. We have to give it to Peter," because of course I always come into work wearing a hat. And so they took aside this ridiculous hat. I think it's actually a woman's hat. I'm not quite sure. And they put it aside for me, and so I occasionally wear it. So this is the absolute silliest hat I own. I only wear it on rare occasions, but this is, like I say, this hat was given to me by my bosses at my place of work. So I keep it and I occasionally wear it. That's where the silly hat comes from. Also, speaking of silly things, because we're in the pre-show, so I don't get to the serious stuff for a couple of minutes. Slightly amusing story. I got home last night. I get home from work around 12:30 or so, and I've been switched to a different department where there's an awful lot more lifting and heavy stuff. So and I'm getting older. I can probably use the exercise. So I've been lifting heavy stuff all day, and I'm a little tired. And it turned out that some of the stuff that my wife rented a dumpster. She's in a big cleaning kick. She's in her glory because things are being thrown away, and there were some things that didn't get into the dumpster. My sons got them upstairs from the cellar, but didn't get them into the dumpster. So I spent a little time carrying the stuff into the dumpster. So when I went to bed, I'm going to bed. I had all during work yesterday. I was thinking for some reason of the 1938 movie, The Adventures of Robin Hood, which I bought off of Amazon a while back. So I watched a little bit of that, and then I crashed. And I crashed hard. I woke up at 12:30 in the afternoon. That's how long I slept. I got at least a solid 9 hours sleep because I must have been very tired. And I got up all happy and say, I've got up. God, I slept the whole day away, but I remembered this is my day off. I had already put up my lead post for the day. My podcast not till 3. I was able to sleep the whole day away, so I was feeling good about it. I tweeted about that. Oh, great! I got to sleep the whole day away. I got more sleep than I'd ever gotten. I feel rested. I feel great. All the news I'm going to read online is still going to be online, which is why I'm a little less. Oh, good to see you check in early, Juliet. So I'm thinking I'm going to be up for the podcast. So I go downstairs. I see my wife because anytime my wife has had a back issue. So she's had to sleep in this recliner I bought her after her operation, which is very hard because I miss waking up first and just looking at my wife because I think my wife has a great face. So I go downstairs and she's over there. Oh, I said, yeah, I've slept great. And it was great to sleep away the day and realize that I could do it because I had the day off. And that's when I realized you never say that to a person who has never really slept like that in her life, even when she wasn't having her back issues. My wife never sleeps well. She is not a person who sleeps well. And if she gets 5 hours sleep, she's doing really well. If she gets 6 hours sleep, it's a miracle. And I can sleep anywhere. All my life, I've been able to just sleep anywhere. So I said that, and I was all smiles, and I saw the look on her face. And I realized that that's one of those. I didn't follow one of the tips that's going to be in the upcoming book, 33 Tips to Stay Married 33 Years, is that you do not engage your mouth without thinking. And she's got that "you bastard" look. Which is, it's one of those funny moments. It makes a very good story, but at the moment when you're experiencing it, it's difficult because you realize, so happy about something that does not make her happy. And it's like, oh, maybe I should not have said that. But it was one of those cute moments, and life is full of those cute moments. But it's now 3:00, and it's time for cute moments to end, and it's time for the official beginning of the Tech Guy off the radio. Quien es macho edition. And I had it all in my head what we were going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the debate. We're going to talk about the debate. We're going to talk about that. We're going to start with that. But when I got home and got the news that the president had COVID, it's like, oh boy, this is talk about game changers. And I'm betting that a lot of the people who didn't take me up on my bet offer are rethinking that. But let's get straight to topic one. And topic one is going to be the debate, because the COVID stuff is still going to be there in 30 minutes unless the president dies in the next 30 minutes, which I sincerely doubt is going to happen. There was a lot of discussion as to whether that first debate will take place. I remember the day of the debate, Rush Limbaugh still had not committed to the idea that the debate would happen. He was still hedging his bets on it. And we've actually seen a few, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say conspiracy theories, because we've actually reached the point, and it's an embarrassing thing to say when you think about it. We have actually reached the point where so many things. No, the president's not going to be spying on another candidate like that. Oh, they're not going to make up a Russia conspiracy. No, they're not going to. They wouldn't do. There's so many things that 5 years ago people would have said they would never do something like that. That damn right they would do something like that if turned out to be the case. That you can't really say, oh, well, sounds like a conspiracy theory anymore. But you've been talking about how they've developed things for your eyes, contact lenses that can provide information, or simple wires that you can use so that you feed people things. But Biden showed up, and what was interesting about the debate is I had to work that day. I always work. Tuesdays is always a work day for me. I mean, there's no Monday holiday on a Tuesday unless Christmas or the 4th of July falls on a Tuesday. I have never had a Tuesday off since I've been at this place where I'm at, unless I've taken a vacation day. So the debate was on, and I wanted to hear a bit of the debate, but I don't have a cell phone, and that's by choice. I think I've talked about that before. So on my lunch break is between 9:30 at night and 10. I get out at midnight, but I have the latest possible lunch, which I like because then everything's home stretch. So I listened to about a half hour of the debate, basically the middle half hour of the debate. And then when I got home, I made it a point to tweet out what I thought about that middle half hour without looking at anybody's tweets. I made it a point. I'm not going to look at any social media. I'm going to watch the debate. Then I'll look at the PJ Media live stream about 5 minutes behind. After I watch a segment, I'll start from the bottom. And then after I've decided what I thought of it, see what they say about it. But I was determined I was not going to see any part of it. I would see no social media so that my judgment would just be my own. Now, first, I'm going to tell you what I heard from two people who had seen the debate, the guards at the front desk. Now, one of them is a total pro-Trump guy. The other one is much younger and basically doesn't vote. He says, no, it's all, he's a person who thinks it's all a fix, so to speak. So he's not planning on voting. And after the debate, he's still not planning on voting. So I asked their opinion because they both watched and listened to it, because I wanted the opinion of someone who had seen it. And the pro-Trump guy thought that Trump won hands down and had very little nice to say about Chris Wallace. The second person thought that they both had made some decent points, didn't really have an opinion on it, but thought that Chris Wallace had been really horrible. And of course, somebody is calling, and they hung up. And the battery on the phone died. I forgot to put it in the charger. Good. So now I'm not interrupted. So the phone downstairs will work, but my wife's not home, so she'll take care of that later. But I digress. So I had those opinions, and I had asked him, the guy who wasn't planning on voting, does this debate make you want to vote more or not more? And he was still indifferent to voting. It hadn't changed his opinion on anybody or anything. And that's important because despite what the polls have told you, I say Biden is behind. And I say Biden is still very much behind. And my proof of that took place yesterday, actually. I tweeted out the reasons why I thought that Joe Biden was behind and what I thought about it. And as you might, and I did this in response to a Mediate poll story that was talking about how well Joe Biden is doing and how, Donald Trump is in real trouble. And, we've seen so many of these things. I mean, how many times can the left tell us how much trouble Donald Trump is in when all the evidence in terms of their actions and what they're doing says the opposite? And so I mentioned that. And when I mentioned that, I, of course, got some pushback from people saying I'm doing delusional. I'm saying the evidence suggests otherwise. The actions, and my argument is that the actions of the media and the actions of the Biden campaign are not the actions of a ticket that's ahead. They're just not. You don't do the things you're doing if you're these guys, if you're ahead. And frankly, the media and the Biden campaign are the same thing. Let's not pretend that they're anything other. The media and the Biden campaign are, in fact, one and the same. So what I ended up doing is after the debate, I made an offer, and this is an offer I had made previously. As some of you know, I have about $300 in bets, which isn't a lot to some people, but when you're working in a warehouse, $300 is a fair amount of money. And I had made an offer previously, and I decided to make the offer again as an answer to these people who had already bet with me concerning the result of the election. And I said, basically, listen, I'm going to give you two offers. If after the debate you think that that these polls are right, Joe Biden has it easy, I'll let you double the amount of the bet. Instead of betting $100 against me, you can bet $200. Now, I keep in my in my PayPal account, I keep a cushion. And I have a double cushion right now. I made it a point to increase my cushion because times being what they were. And I have enough money sitting in the PayPal account to pay all my writers for 2 months. So if something, if we ever had a real crash in traffic, or if the money if we had subscribers just drop like flies for some reason, I would be able to pay my writers for 2 months. That was important to me because I always wanted to make sure that I had that cushion. Well, I bet basically what I was betting was the second month cushion to make sure that I had, I'll bet the second month's cushion. I don't want to solicit people to pay off the bet. And if I have money put aside that I can use for it, but basically I could pay people off via PayPal from that second month. Now, I don't know how honest I mean, these are people on Twitter. I don't know how straight they are. They claim to be straight. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't want to disparage people, but in my back of my mind, I'm not counting on the money from these bets after the president wins. But if I lose, I pay my bets. That's just the way things are. Well, so I offered to double it, and I had enough. I can do this with the cushion. I offered, you can double your bet if you really think the polls are right. If you really think Biden won that debate, we'll double that. I'll give you a chance to double your bet. Or if you think that you're going to lose and you're worried, I'll give you this one last chance. Instead of paying me the full amount when you lose, you can pay half right now. I'll take half of the bet. You can pay right now and buy out of the bet. And I didn't get any takers for either. And that doesn't surprise me because the people don't actually believe that Biden's going to win. And in the back of my mind, again, I'm not counting on these people actually paying off. So if you're not planning on paying off $100, why would you pay off $50? Well, so as I said, I was getting a lot of pushback. And from one guy, and I'm looking at his profile, he claims he's a lawyer. I said, all right, fine. Let's put your money where your mouth is. I really shouldn't, but I'll offer you the same $100 bet. And I'll keep the offer open till 1 a.m. the next day, which was today. Oh, I can't take your money. You'll be all depressed. And so I said, no. Politics isn't my religion. Catholicism is my religion. I have the solace. If things go wrong with me politically, I have the solace of my religion. I can handle it. I mean, frankly, we handled 8 years of Barack Obama. If we can handle 8 years of Barack Obama, we could handle 4 years of Joe Biden if the worst came to worst. But no, I can handle it. And he said, and plus Biden has an 80% chance. I said, well, if you feel guilty, give me 3-1 odds then. I'll give you 2-1 in the morning. And when I came home from work, let me put this out to see if I can get a few more people. Live stream on now, talking the debate. Debates 2020 and the left's confidence polls. Here. So I say, all right, I'll give you till 1 in the morning because I had to go off to work. If you want to come on down and you want to, make that bet, I will give you till then. I'll check Twitter when I get home. You come on down and you can make that bet and you can take my money and you can feel good about it. And don't worry about how I feel. I can handle it. I'm not going to be upset about it. Well, came back and checked my Twitter stream. And as you might have guessed, there was a lot of people on the Twitter stream who were making fun of me. A lot of people who were suggesting I was part of a cult because I support real Donald Trump. Because, of course, and I said real Donald Trump because I'm thinking again I'm thinking in terms of Twitter because I'm about to tweet out something concerning the podcast, trying to get a few more bodies in here. Well, I saw there were an awful lot of people willing to make fun of me and willing to say X, Y, or Z about me. But you know what there wasn't? There wasn't anybody, and I mean anybody, willing to take the bet. There were exactly 0 people, just like the number of camels that the Monty Python camel spotter had spotted. There were 0 people willing to take my bet. And I think that's really telling. Because given the great love of the right for the left. Oh, Dominic, great to see you. Always happy to have you. It's going well. You can always catch the beginning of it later when the podcast is done. Just saying hi to Dominic who just tuned in. So this is what I mean. The left, if they really believed that Biden was winning, they would have jumped at the chance to take my money. If they really believed Biden was winning, they would have jumped at the chance to double their bets. If they really believed Biden was winning, they would have gone after all of these things, especially now with Trump with COVID. But none of them do. And that's because the debate was clearly, the part I listened to on the radio, I thought Trump won that part. I thought clearly Donald Trump won that part. Trump was making better points. Biden was counterpunching. Biden, and I used a boxing analogy. For those of you who know anything about boxing history, one of the great fights in heavyweight history was the 15-round fight between Rocky Marciano, who held the title, and Ezzard Charles, one of the most underrated heavyweight champions who had ever fought. He was champion a couple people before Marciano. Great fighter, Ezzard Charles. Although these days he fought tough people. He lost a lot of fights. In those days, it wasn't uncommon for a boxer to lose a fair amount of fights if they fought a lot. Marciano, of course, went undefeated during his career. It was the only fight that Marciano had only gone 15 rounds. And by like round 10, Marciano was pretty much hit Charles at will. But in round 14, Charles rallied and earned a split in the scoring. And I was thinking, when I'm listening to the radio, I was thinking, maybe Biden's being Ezzard Charles. Biden's in a bit of a street fight. A street fight's what Biden's used to. Maybe he's rallying because of that. And he sounded a little better. And then I watched it on TV. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Trump is pummeling him. And what struck me immediately about Joe Biden when I'm watching this on TV, and remember, I had heard the middle third of the debate. So the first third was all new to me. The second third, I had already heard the exchanges, but now I could see what was going on the screen. And the last third, of course, I hadn't heard because I listened during my lunch hour. Joe Biden, there was something with his eyes. If you looked at Joe Biden, hey, Pat, great to see you. Happy to. And by the way, to those in chat, feel free to throw comments in chat, and I will comment on your comments live. Always great to see Patrick. Patrick's a great guy. But there was something wrong with his eyes. His eyes did not look right. And he also had, and I got to take off my glasses for this, and I can tell I'm getting older because the screen's a little. I can, if I concentrate, I can read what you say in chat with my glasses, but I really have to concentrate. But Biden had this habit, and I don't. And you'll have you when you go back and watch the debate, you'll see he would go like this. And I wasn't. My first thought was, oh, he's taking notes and getting, because in a regular debate, person takes notes and gets ready to say what is coming. But he didn't. It was almost as if it's like an android shutting down. He was like, and then, okay, I'm up. I'm saying something, and it was all through the debate. When Donald Trump was talking, Biden would just shut down on power conservation mode. I'm trying to conserve energy so I can answer. And that was Joe Biden. And he looked terrible when he did it. And of course, when he was not doing that, his eyes. Do I know if the vice presidential debate will be delayed because of Pence's potential exposure to the virus? To my knowledge, not yet. It would be a great excuse for the left. If I'm the left, I don't want these debates, especially after what happened with Joe Biden. So Biden, to me, looked terrible. And Trump, what was interesting, what the most interesting thing to me, in addition to Biden's eyes, was that I think Trump had many openings that he didn't exploit. Despite the and I'm a little more generous to Chris Wallace than most people. Everyone seems to agree that Chris Wallace was horribly biased. And yeah, he was horrible, but all reporters are biased against Trump. I don't measure it based on, oh, you treated Trump unfairly. Trump's always treated unfairly. I'm going to be shocked by this. Anyone's going to be surprised by this. What struck me about Wallace is that he asked some very pointed questions to Biden as well. And Biden doesn't often get pointed questions. So I thought so I'm grading on that scale, just like Joe Biden's debate performance is being graded on the scale. Did he dribble out of the mouth and fall over backwards? Since he was not foaming at the mouth and falling over backwards, that's a win for Joe Biden. Joe Biden, per his debate performance, will not be removed from the ticket. Because if he was dead zombie Joe on his feet, he would have been removed from the ticket. They would have found a reason to remove him from the ticket. In fact, this COVID thing, this would have been a chance for the Democrats if Biden tested positive to remove him from the ticket. And although Ali Alexander, I saw something online today on Twitter, Ali Alexander suggests that Biden is extremely sick and that he knows how sick he is, and it's going to come out. And I thought that was inappropriate, frankly, at this time to be discussing it. But Biden's on that ticket now. That debate solidified Biden being on the ticket, not because he didn't get pummeled. He did. It wasn't a knockout, mind you, but he got pummeled by Trump. But he did counterpunch. And in a sense, this was actually Biden's natural environment, because this is the way Biden normally debates. So that might have helped him out too. But my wife, when she came home from work, and she was running a little late, which worried me because she gets out earlier than me. She was listening in the kitchen, and her reaction was, cripes, he's on some sort of drugs. Whatever drugs he's got, I want some. It's good. But Trump had chances to push his own record. I'm shocked he never mentioned the peace deals when he talked about the reasons why he should be reelected. Because I think the foreign policy is good. And yeah, Pence should mop up Kamala, but you never know. Dominic believes that Pence should mop up Kamala, and that's a fair thought, but you never know. You really never know concerning stuff like that. But Kamala seems to me a very lightweight. There's something on my screen that looks terrible. Let me fix that. She's a lightweight. And yeah, she's got no business debating these guys. She couldn't stand up to Tulsi Gabbard. And Tulsi's actually not been bad. Tulsi would have scared me as a Democrat nominee. And actually, you know who would have scared me was Marianne Williamson. Would have scared me as the nominee. And I know some of you might be laughing at that, whether you're in chat right now or watching it later. But she actually would have scared me as the Democrat nominee. But I'm digressing again. Trump could have pushed his record at different times, but instead chose to punish Biden. And again, using another boxing analogy, Rocky Marciano fought a guy named Roland Lestraza, and he had won a decision with him before, and uh, Lestraza suggested that Rocky was the type of guy who would get punch drunk, and he said, "I'm going to punish this guy." And Marciano, they couldn't understand why Marciano were not knocking him out. It ended up being a TKO, if I remember right. This is back in the 50s, before I was born. And Marciano basically punished him, and Trump chose to punish him more. It was more hit Biden, hit Biden, hit Biden, rather than push record. And myself, I would have pushed the record, because hitting Biden, and again, Trump has been very successful. So maybe I have no business giving this advice, but you have a lot of people, even though there were less viewers than the Trump-Hillary debates, there were a lot of viewers. There were an awful lot of people who watched this debate, and many of whom probably never saw Trump outside of the media filter. So since you're outside of the media filter, you want to push your achievements, because the media has downplayed them at every opportunity. I mean, when you had peace in the Middle East from this country, they're like, meh. Black unemployment, meh. They didn't care. They don't push Trump's achievements, and the president has a long list of achievements. So if I'm Donald Trump, I'm pushing those when I have those openings. And he didn't do that, and instead hit Biden, hit Biden, hit Biden, hit Biden. And in one respect, that works, because you want this other person to look weak, because this is something people don't seem to understand, and the media does not seem to understand. Being president is not a debating society. It is not the person who can stand up at a podium and say, "I believe that the formulation of the economic system should be corrugated by." That's not what you want. You need a person who leads. You need a strong leader. And that's why I called this podcast Quien, macho, because when I saw the story, and they had this on one of the Spanish channels, they had one of those polls, who won the debate. And by 2-1, they said Trump. And all I could think of was the old Saturday Night Live sketch, Quien es más macho? Okay, Patrick says Trump can't get out of his own way at times. And if he loses, it will be his own fault. Well, if he does lose, it will be his own fault, plus the attempts to cheat. But he should have known 4 years ago that the cheating is going to be coming. In fact, I'm going to be putting up an old post of mine. I'll be reposting it shortly, probably today after this podcast, where I talked, and it was a week after the last election in 2016, where I said the time to worry about voter fraud is now. The biggest advantage Donald Trump had in 2016 is that the left didn't see him coming. The left was convinced he was going to lose. So the normal voter fraud operations, which were still active in New Hampshire because it had a key Senate race, but they were not active in Pennsylvania as much. They were not active in Wisconsin. They were not active in Michigan because they didn't need the votes. And the reason why it took so long to call those states was because they were giving the Democrats a chance to steal the votes. Stealing votes is not easy. It takes time. In fact, the Trump campaign suing Philadelphia for not letting the poll watchers in there during the early voting is big, because you have to be on watch these guys in the big cities, because they're going to steal it if you give them a chance. And this is for all the marbles. And this is another thing I can't understand about the left. The left will tell you that big corporations can't be trusted. There's too much money involved. The big corporations want that money, and they'll stop at nothing to get it. Yet, what is the biggest money out there? The biggest money is trillions of government spending that can be directed. One of the reasons why all this green stuff is BS is that basically it becomes a reward for favored companies and for favored contractors. Lefties forming businesses will get grants towards this stuff, and it doesn't work out. Evergreen Solar is I work in what used to be Evergreen Solar, the building. And it was set up when it was open. The governor, granted money to them. It's a big deal. We're going to produce all these things, blah, 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 blah. And they went under because it was not actually economically viable. It was all BS. And that's what you're getting with this stuff. That's why you have to be prepared for these things. That's where the money is. So you're going to tell me that you can't trust a big corporation, but you're going to trust people that because that they'll break rules, but you're going to trust people not to cheat in an election when literally trillions of dollars of patronage money going to your favorite businesses or your favorite causes is on the line? Give me a break. Don't insult my intelligence by this. But the biggest proof that Trump won that debate comes from two different sources. The first source is the media itself, which insisted no more debates. We shouldn't have any more debates. If you win, you like more debates. If you think a debate helped your candidate and hurt the other guy, you want more. You want another chance to finish him off. If you think the debate hurt your guy, you don't want any more parts of it. That was a big sign. The second big sign came from Matt Drudge. And again, this comes from Don Schuber. And I quipped before the debate that you'll be able to, Matt, hello, Douglas. I did not notice you. Good. Nice to see you there. I think you're new to the podcast. I hope you enjoy it. My apologies for not greeting you earlier. But when it comes down to it, a lot of conservatives don't go to Drudge anymore. I actually went to Drudge briefly to see if he would talk about the O'Keefe stuff when it finally broke, and I didn't see anything there at the time, although he mentioned it earlier about Democrats worried about the O'Keefe stuff. And I'm actually surprised President Trump didn't mention the O'Keefe stuff during the debate. That would have been the time to mention it because people would have gone to see the video. But you're in the middle of a debate. You can't think of everything. But anyways, Drudge normally puts up a poll who won the debate. Now, Drudge has gone very far to the left lately. And his viewership is down. He still gets millions of viewers, but his viewership is down. Well, he didn't put up that poll. And I submit and suggest, just as Don Schuber submitted and suggested, he didn't put up that poll because he knew what the result would be and did not want it to be it. And there's actually reports that Drudge is now looking for financing. Now, I don't know why Drudge would need financing. He's pretty much a one-man operation, was a one-man operation. He probably has a few people searching for stuff for him. And you're basically paying for bandwidth. And he's already made plenty of money from over 20 years, so he should not be hurting. If he's hurting, then he's just silly and doing something wrong. I shouldn't speak like that because he gets. I have yet in my 12 years of blogging to get what he gets in a quarter hour of a day. But it's like the Huffington Post. There's news that Verizon is trying to unload the Huffington Post. And I got to tell you, Ariana Huffington, I want you to pick my stocks because you seem to know when to sell. All these people, I mean, it's easy. If you're a blonde, good-looking woman, people are going to want to give you money. Look at what's happened with Newsweek and what's her face, Tina Davis. She convinced many people to give her millions of dollars of loss to pay for her millions of dollars in losses. But if the Drudge Report's having financial trouble and needs venture capital, and Huffington Post is losing millions hand over fist, I mean, we don't make a lot of money here at the Tech Guy blog. At the end of the month, we pay all our writers. I have enough left over to pay my bills and have maybe a little bit left over for me. Sometimes not so much. Like this month there's going to be a little bit left over, but not a lot. And we do the podcast basically to get an extra 180 a month and more hits. And frankly, the site's been a little slow lately. So if you like what you hear, tell your friends, send out some links, see if you can. I'd appreciate that. That would be the best thing for me in terms of this type of stuff. But they're money losers. It's because this stuff has all become to advance the cause. I don't mind losing money on this if my pals end up getting the big government grants. And that's what it's all about. That's why the left the media has become a part of the Democrat Party, because they intend to profit from it. I mean, look at how many, the moderator for the second Trump debate is a former Biden aide, for God's sakes. Media is where Democrat aides who are not qualified enough to be candidates go to make their money afterwards. That's the bottom line there. So I think Trump won the debate, and the fact that the Spanish network 2-1 said Trump won the debate. Quien es más macho, as the old Saturday Night Live skit would be. Más macho es Señor Trump. Señor Trump. Quien es más macho? Señor Joe Biden or Señor Donald Trump? If this was the Saturday Night live skit from 40 years ago, it would have been Señor Trump. And this hurts the left. This hurts the left. And another thing, they keep pounding on this white supremacist stuff, which is it's just hilarious. And the only reason why they're pounding on it, and I think Rush was right about this, is because they are terrified about the black vote. They are absolutely terrified that Trump's initiatives is going to give him more of the black vote. Because if he gets enough of the black vote, if he gets up to 15, 20% of the black vote, it is over. You have to steal an awful lot of votes to make up for that. So the bottom line, the debates were good for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, I mean, he did not have a knockout blow. He did not finish off Biden. He punished him. And Biden will be able to answer the bell for the next debate. But what's important about the debate, too, that people are forgetting, because Biden was compos mentis, whether due to drugs or whether due to wires or whether for whatever reason, Biden was compos mentis. Now, the expectation, he beat the expectation game for that debate. But now the expectation game for Joe Biden is compos mentis. If you're compos mentis for the debate, but suddenly you're dribbling and can't function in an interview again, that's a problem. If you're competent for a debate, but can't keep your mind strength during appearance, that's a problem. And it goes without saying that if you're competent for this debate and you're not competent for the next, that's a real trouble. And that's why I think that you're going to see the COVID diagnosis of the president being used to try and cancel the last two debates, because they don't want any part of this. They do not want any part of this. Now let's pivot to that COVID diagnosis. Now, Hope Hicks tested positive for COVID. She's a young woman. She's the one who approved me. I forget if it was the first time or the second time for press credentials. I think it was the second time that she gave the final approval for my press credentials for the Trump appearance in Worcester, which was very nice of her. I owe her one for that. And of course, now the president and first lady have been tested positive, and Biden, Harris, and Pence have tested negative, and we hope they remain negative. We don't mind. And this is what people don't understand, how it's reached the fact that there are so many people on the left who are cheering for. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to stop dead thought, because I thought was going to bring up, I clicked on the wrong window. I thought I was going to bring up something about COVID, but I want to read you this because I just can't believe it. This is from the Washington Post. The Post removed the tweet pictured below, which was written Thursday and released through an automated program, because the subsequent news of the president's infection rendered it tasteless. And the opinion, imagine what it'll be like to never have to think about Trump again. And it's just, I'm sorry, this is the fact that it's released by an automated program. Just, I mean, you could give artificial intelligence show it 5 or 6 articles by the left concerning Trump, and it could generate anti-Trump articles all day, because they're all the same. And yeah, there's plenty of leftists who are cheering Trump and the first lady having COVID, but they should probably not be cheering. And I've always said, those who wish people dead are kind of suckers, in the sense that everyone eventually dies. So in one respect, it's a smart wish, because your wish will always come true. But I mean, it's just stupid. It's just stupid stuff. And yeah, plenty of people are being assholes, like Jennifer Rubin. Here's Jennifer Rubin. You may not give a fuck about children, but decent people care about one another. Oh, I mean, what kind of an ass says something like that? What kind? I mean, and they go, again, that's the mainstream media, and there's plenty of examples of the left going nuts on this, and we're not going to go into all of them. But the president getting COVID, it's something to worry about, because of course President Trump is an older person. But President Trump also has several advantages. First of all, the guy is in excellent health. He's the type of guy, he would never get the 8 hours or 9 hours sleep that I did. And by the way, Douglas, feel free to throw some comments in there, and I will comment on your comments if you have something to say. And I want to remind everybody, if you got something you want me to comment on, feel free to put it in the chat. people who are in chat can see it, and of course, and they'll comment, but I will give my comments on it. So if people are interested, they can hear it. But President Trump is most likely to recover from this. I mean, the first lady, of course, she's younger. She's in very good shape. President, first of all, is in very good shape for his age. I mean, he is in an age group where you would worry, but he's in very good shape for his age. And one of the reasons why he's in very good shape is he was never a drinker, and he was never a drug user. Now, I don't know if he ever smoked early in life. I've never seen Donald Trump smoking. I don't know if he ever smoked, but if he's never smoked, never been drunk, and never used drugs, that and alone is something. Like take myself, for example. My dad died at age, let's see, it'll be his 99th birthday on Halloween. He died in 1987. He was 65 years old. He was going to turn 66 that year. But he had been a heavy smoker earlier in his life, and he'd been a heavy drinker. So that obviously affected him, and he had some various injuries during his life. Been run over once. He'd had his back broken. My father had a colorful life, and maybe someday, after some of my brothers and sisters die, I'll mention it about it. But now is not the time for something like that, for those stories. But myself, I've never been drunk. I came close once, and I'll tell you that story someday. And I never used drugs, and I rarely drink, never used drugs, never smoked. So though I'm very overweight, I'm figuring I've got a few more years than my father. But Trump is like that. Trump, not a smoker, not a drinker, none of that stuff. Juliet's friend and brother staffer wished him death publicly. That's kind of stupid. I mean, I mean, it's stupid, but at least it's on. I'll give credit to the left in this. At least it's honest. At least it's on. I'll give them credit for honesty. I'll give them credit for honesty. But if you don't have nothing good to say, that's the best thing is to not say anything if you have nothing good to say. But combine Trump's health with the fact that he's president, which means he gets the best health care in the world. I mean, as long as you don't have a member of the medical staff who decides, I'm going to give Trump a Mickey or something, the president's going to recover. And the fact that he's going to recover is going to disappoint a lot of people. Now, do I know that for a fact? No, I don't know that for a fact. Man plans, God laughs. President should recover from this. Hope Hicks should definitely recover from this. And when the president recovers from this, it's going to be bad news, even worse news from the left, because it will make him look stronger. Again, Quien es más macho. And people want a strong leader. Trump recovering from this is a sign of physical strength. And that's why we've already seen some conspiracy theories and that say, oh, well, Trump is faking this COVID stuff. And because the one thing you really want to do is fake. If you can come up with a solid explanation as to why he would want to do this, I mean, I'll listen to it because, as I said earlier, we've reached a point where nothing is off the table anymore because sanity has taken a back seat. But all the cards are in Trump's favor here. The biggest result of this is Biden may choose not to debate him. Of course, they were very far apart. I mean, Trump couldn't have infected Biden if he wanted to, or he might insist that Trump wears a mask. And everyone's making big fuss, mask. So, and there are a few people saying, "Oh, see, Trump didn't wear a mask. That's why." I'm sorry. It's the COVID thing helps Biden in the sense that it gives them a chance to play delaying games. The fact that they're saying, "Oh, we need to postpone Comey Barrett because of this." I mean, the entire function of the president of the United States for the nomination to the Supreme Court has now been finished. It's all up to the Senate now. And I'm trusting Lindsey Graham to get this thing out, get this vote beforehand. And frankly, I think that once the vote happens, I think that's the final stake in the hat. I think that's gonna finish him. I mentioned that last week, but it's worth mentioning again. Navy commander, personal physician prescribed him taking HCQ early. That's true. Trump has been taking hydro. I can't pronounce it all of a sudden. I'm having a little bit of a brain freeze. I can't. I'm not going to worry about pronouncing it. You know what I'm talking about. Luckily, I'm not running for president, or this would be a Biden moment. But in the end, he's going to recover. The left's going to try and play games with. They're going to try and use this as an excuse to keep Biden off a debate stage. That's my prediction. And if they can kill the second of the third debates, it's supposed to be 3 debates between Trump and Biden. They can kill one of them. That'll be a big win for them. In that they will not have to put Biden before the voters again to get beaten up, or it'll give them more chance to try and keep him up. But I'm not all that worried about this COVID diagnosis. I think in the long term, it's going to help Trump. In the long term, that's the thing about the left. The left has become, and in the way it makes sense that the left has become what it has. And I'm going to pivot to this. We're in the potpourri section now. I'll discuss, and here's how the potpourri section is going to work. There's 3 or 4 things I want to talk about that have come into my mind. But if you're in chat, I will discuss any topic that you bring up that you want me to talk about. Let me tweet that out. Okay, at the portion of the live stream where I will talk about or comment on any topic that you want to bring up in chat. Watch. Join the conversation here. Let's see, do I have the link still up? Yes, I had the link saved. Okay. Release national stockpile of HCQ. Yeah, I think it should be. And let's not forget that Africa has done very well in COVID. And that's because you can still buy that stuff over the counter. And I think that is not a coincidence. But like now, any topic you want to bring up. And the first topic I want to bring up is California. And I got to laugh at what's going on with California and the electric cars and the prescription against gas cars and so forth. And I got to say, you've got to be kidding me. California, I'm remembering the movie. You remember the movie Taken? The movie Taken, where the lead character has the guy who kidnapped his daughter, and he comments about the electricity. You know, the problem with farming this out is that we get all these people who don't get good electricity, but here we're in France. We have a nice even flow, and all I can think of is if this was in California, he wouldn't have that. Because they can't provide their own electricity. And, you know, people try and come to California because they want to get out of people come from the third world countries to the United States because they don't want to live in a third world country. And you would think that the ambition for people in third world countries would be to no longer be in a third world country, to come to a first world country and live a little better. California is the only place I can think of that has willingly turned into a third world country to a large degree and is willingly voting. I mean, think about this. How many people, it's like the Marquis de Sade land. How many people actually decide, I want to live in a third world country? I want to have a third world economy. I want to not have electricity 24/7. I want wildfires. I want the homeless on my streets. I want people shitting on the street in San Francisco. I want to live in a place where people release poop maps of pollution. I used to where people shit on the street. I every now and then I do something on the blog. You might have seen it, called a 100-word fan fiction, where if something I enjoy, I think of 100 words. I've done a 90-year-old maverick owning a casino in occupied France. I've done a little bit of Stargirl. I've done a little bit of things like that. And I did a little Monk once where Monk's greatest enemy keeps sending him poop maps for San Francisco so that he won't leave his apartment because he's afraid of all that stuff. But the people of California vote for this over and over and over again. They do this to themselves. And if I'm an illegal immigrant and I came from Guatemala or Honduras or any place like that, I'm thinking to myself, you've got to be kidding me. I just left this kind of a shithole. I don't want this. I came because I wanted law and order. I wanted a chance for a job. I wanted my family to do better than me. And California's done this to themselves, and I cannot grasp that people are willing to do this to themselves. I don't understand it. It does not compute in my mind. I just don't get it. But that I've got to tell you, that is the funniest story. And now they're going to mandate. First, they're going to mandate electric cars. Then they're going to mandate, we're going to get rid of gasoline cars. Oh, but we don't have enough electricity. So now we're going to mandate that you only plug in your electric cars the electric cars that we mandate you have can only be plugged in certain times. Oh my God. I mean, that's comedy. John Cleese couldn't. I mean, it reads like a Monty Python skit. And somebody tell the left, and we've seen this over and over from the left, from the it's my right as a man to be a woman to all of this stuff. Can somebody tell the American left that Monty Python's Flying Circus was meant as comedy and was not meant as a blueprint for how to live your life? Can somebody explain this to the left? I just don't get it. Don't get it at all. But now I want to talk about something else concerning the left. And that the left seems to be instant gratification. One of the mistakes, we've talked about this in terms of the COVID stuff and the reaction to Trump on COVID, talked about this in terms of the election. We see a lot of the left reacting for instant gratification rather than delayed gratification. And this makes sense because the left has become secular and the religious people have migrated to the right. And this is going to sound very theological. But think of what and if you're a person like me, I'm very, very Catholic. I believe in God. I believe in the devil. These are not, in fact, I will state them as facts rather than as beliefs. And we're not going to go into why I state it that way. But the devil is always about instant gratification. The devil is always about the easy way. The wrong thing always seems easy. And the devil's biggest trick is go ahead and do this sin. It's easy. It's no big deal. And then, you can never be forgiven. That's the basic MO for the devil. But God's thing is always delayed gratification. Heaven is delayed gratification. The whole concept of heaven is delayed gratification. Short life on earth, eternity in heaven. And because of that, it actually makes sense that the left, having moved away from religion, whether it's Islam, although they're looking for votes from Islam, whether it's Judaism, although they seem to be very in favor of Jews who don't believe in Judaism, or Christianity, and they're very in favor of Christians who don't believe Christian doctrine. It's all about the fast way, the easy way out. So the left reacting the way they react, the left doing what they do, the easy way stuff, makes perfect sense to me. Because it's become all about instant gratification. And if it's instant gratification, it feels good for a few seconds, but then it's a down. Like people on a drug, it feels good for the moment you're taking the drug, but then you have a crash. This is what the left has become. And it's actually a very sad thing when you think about it. I want to mention that the lawsuits are coming. I already mentioned the president suing Philadelphia for blocking the poll watchers, which is good. Always hit them where they're vulnerable. Hit them in their money. Now the Proud Boys founder is suing Biden and CNN Quote, reporters who call multiracial patriotic group white supremacists and Nazis. Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes has announced he is suing Joe Biden, CNN, and all the reporters who called his multiracial patriotic group white supremacists and Nazis. Despite the fact that the current Proud Boys chairman, Enrique Taro, is Cuban African American. Oh, I love this stuff. I really do. And of course, now you have Rittenhouse's lawyer suing Joe Biden's campaign. And I'm thinking, should he include the Democrat Party? Yes, God isn't. I agree with you. God is, in fact, a fact. God is. That's why his name is I Am. And Dominic is right about that. God is a fact. You may disagree with me, but I'm sorry. It is. God is. But I gotta tell you, and I gotta laugh about this. All these suits that are coming, and again, it's about instant gratification. I want to try and get this advantage now. I want to get this election win now. I want to do this. It's for you're putting yourself into these spots, and that's the way you have to fix them. You have to, as a certain president who preceded Donald Trump used to say, hit them back twice as hard. Hit them back twice as hard. And the best way to hit them back is through the law. Because a lot of these discrimination suits, a lot of these things, the laws out there, they've been out there for a while. And a lot of the laws that you can sue under these people under for these things are laws that the left pushed. And it's the best way to do it. And when this stuff comes up, I'm telling you, it's going to crush these guys, because eventually you get to the people who are financing them. And I think once you get to the people financing them, it's ridiculous. And it's going to be very ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, have you seen the ratings for game 1 of the NBA Finals? Down to the lowest level since 1994. I gotta laugh when I see this. These guys, again, in COVID, this is the Lakers are in the finals. LeBron is in the finals. Anthony Davis is in the finals. And you have a plucky up-and-coming team that LeBron used to play for in the finals that has upset 2 great teams. People aren't watching. And remember, there are salary caps in the NBA. There's salary caps in the NFL. These salaries, again, we're doing the potpourri section of the podcast for those of you just joining. Those salary caps are going to affect how much money these guys make. Now, LeBron is going to be fine, but there are going to be a lot of mid-level stars who are going to see their money drop. And it is glorious. Now, the baseball season is over, and I would like to thank Major League Baseball for turning me off this season, because, frankly, given how poorly the Boston Red Sox, although they won 5 of their last 7 from what I understand, given how poorly they did, if there was ever a year in my entire lifetime not to watch a single half inning of any baseball game, this year was it. Well, I know. I think Julia, I think you should still like your Lakers. You say a long-time Laker fan until LeBron. I mean, LeBron, I think if LeBron wins this championship, will be his 4th ring. I think you can safely put him above Michael Jordan all time. I actually wrote a post on the subject, because that will mean that he had won championships in 3 different organizations, under 3 different coaches, under 3 different systems. I think that beats Michael Jordan's rings, because Michael Jordan was consistently in the same system and with pretty much the same team. If LeBron can win 4 rings in 3 different places, I think that moves him ahead of Michael Jordan for possibly sole possession of second all time, maybe a tie with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who has more rings and played longer. You can debate between the 2. Number 1, of course, is Bill Russell, who won 11 rings in his career, only failed to win a ring a couple of times, and won 2 of those rings while player coach. I mean, yes, it was he had the same system just like Michael Jordan, but he won 11 rings under that same system. But he also had to function as player coach and won 2 rings. I think that well, maybe you should cut the Mark Levin. Poss just says that Mark Levin said that POTUS is still working 20-hour days. Cut down to 18. Cut cut down to 18. You're positive for COVID. Cut down to 18. I'd cut down to 18 myself, but he's probably not capable of cutting down. It's not in his nature. And it's like a guy. It actually reminds me of a fellow I work with. I didn't realize he was 67 years old. I was shocked. He looks great. And I said, "Well, you retired. How come you?" He said, "Well, I retired, but he was bored. He couldn't stay at home all day, so he wanted to work. So he got the job at the warehouse, driving the fork truck and so forth. And he enjoys it. He's happy. He's around people. He enjoys it, which is good. I mean, maybe I think Trump enjoys working hard. My father was like that. He enjoyed working hard. He enjoyed cooking. Of course, he died a lot younger, but he enjoyed hard work. It made him feel good. And I got to admit, sometimes at the warehouse, now that I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting rather than the light stuff that I was shipping, I enjoy it. Oh, Will Chamberlain. Chamberlain deserves to be in the conversation, but he doesn't have as many rings. And Bill Russell is responsible for that to some degree. But Chamberlain was a great player. But I don't think you can put him ahead of Jabbar. I don't think you can put him ahead of Jordan. And I don't know if you could put him ahead of LeBron. I mean, whatever you think of LeBron James, he is without a question the best player in the NBA today. And the fact that he's the best player in the NBA today, and I'm not a big basketball guy. I used to love to play it, but I was never one to watch basketball. I love to play defense. My mother was a guard in high school. She was a really short girl. But I think you cannot credibly say that there's a better player in the NBA right now than LeBron. And I think he's trying to hold on long enough to play with his son. And I must admit that, to me as a father, that's something, regardless of his politics, that will touch me. If he ends up on the same court with his son, that's going to be a special thing. And I'm going to like that. I don't care who he plays for. I don't care what. I don't care about his politics along those lines. That's something that will be special. And that's a good ambition for a man to have, to be able to play with his son. He's wrong about a lot of things, but I really think his heart's in the right place. I can't find it in myself to hate. Well, I'm not good at hating people anyways, but I can't find in myself to hate the man because he works hard, he plays hard, and he does what he does well. I like that. I admire people who do what they do well. Speaking of an interesting sports topic, I listen to sports radio on the way home. I haven't listened to any sports. I've watched exactly 5 minutes of sports this year, and that's because I went to a Chinese restaurant and they sat me literally next to the TV that had Game 5 of the Celtics Heat game on. I had no choice but to watch it. But on talk radio, they've noticed that a lot of sports writers have suddenly taken to the Patriots. Suddenly they're saying good things about the Patriots and Bill Belichick. And the only difference between the Patriots now and the last 20 years is Tom Brady. These guys hated Tom Brady. The writers hated Brady because he was no nonsense. I'm about winning. I'm about success. Now, everything I've seen about the Patriots' new quarterback, Cam Newton, he carries himself well. He's doing all the right things, and he's out to prove himself because, everybody passed on him. He was a bargain signing. But I think it's very interesting, the degree of Brady hate out there. Why hate someone because they're successful? It's like hating LeBron. I dislike his politics, but I can't find in myself to hate the man for being. Why hate them people for being wrong? People are wrong all the time. I'm sure I'm wrong a lot too. In fact, my wife and I we went to lunch just before the podcast, and I literally was saying, "Correct me if I'm wrong," and she jumped out and said, "Always." And I started cracking up. I thought it was funny, but that's one of the fun things about marriage. When you can joke about your wife and yourself, that's a great thing. But I think it's very interesting to see that the difference there. That people and the left hates success, and I think so. LeBron, yeah, he can be distasteful. He's not. Yeah, he's ungrateful, but in a sense, to comment on what Juliet's tweeting out that LeBron is distasteful as most ungrateful people are. But sometimes, at least in my experience, sometimes the people who have made their own success to some degree tend to be ungrateful because they've worked so hard. I mean, no one can take away his work ethic. And I'm very, it's very odd to be defending LeBron James during this podcast, but I mean, he has a great work ethic, and he plays hard, and he is one of the best at what he does, and I can't help but admire that. It's like when I watch, and you're gonna laugh when I like Byron York. Byron York, and I must confess I am biased concerning Byron York because I met him when I first started doing live reporting around 2010, and he had said he was the first media person who had said he had heard of me. So I'm a little biased there, but Byron York, Kyle Cameron, those two guys, I always liked watching what they do because they were, to my mind, some of the best at what they do. Now, Cameron's a lot more left than I would like in terms of his opinions, but he always played news straight. I thought he was very good. And I think Byron York is so it's like I like watching people do things well. That's why I miss having you on the site, Juliet, because you're great. I cannot wait. January 1st, January cannot come fast enough to have Juliet back writing on the site. California did that to me. So you're due to have a post Saturday, January 2nd. I cannot wait for that post. I'd also like an opinion from you guys. I was thinking of checking with a local restaurant. Might be sooner. Oh, if the law changes, it'll be sooner. I'll be dancing in the streets. I'm thinking of checking with a local restaurant and see if, assuming they have enough bandwidth, to see if I can do the podcast live from there. That way I can have some sit-down guests. I'm looking at some ways to do the podcast live with more than one person. I don't want to sign up for a lot of different things. So if there's a way to do a split screen live stream podcast, maybe with Juliet, I think I would enjoy that. That would be a lot of fun. Might try and see about doing that in the future, but I'd like suggestions on what you'd like to see in terms of the podcast, because the audience is not big. It's usually double or triple digits in the end, but not just live, but afterwards. But I'd like to expand it a little bit. I think we do. I think we do a good job. I just don't think it has the exposure that it could have. But any of your suggestions on that will be very, very good. Also, something for Dominic in chat. I'm going to be starting up 2 more baseball leagues. First will be the 3rd season of the Great Teams League. It'll be 1 day a week rather than 2. And the reason why it'll be 1 day a week is because of the other new league that's starting up. I have a 2nd season of the all-time horrible league, but I'm going to also start up the all mediocre league. These will all be teams that were anywhere from 2 games over to 2 games under 500. So all mediocre team, and those were actually hard squads to find in Dynasty. So we'll be looking for players for that. And I want to go into this piece. There was a piece I saw today. I actually haven't had a chance to read a lot because I went out to lunch with my wife, and as I've already mentioned, I slept till like 12:30 today. Yeah, all mediocre for all available years. I actually may have a list of franchises. There's not a lot of franchises. There's not a lot of options. I was surprised at how few options there were. I have the list of the teams that are available. Some teams only have 1 season. I think the Red Sox and the Yankees only have 1 season each where they qualify that they're available in Dynasty. But I'll, of course, include a Red Sox and a Yankees team on that. For those of you who don't know, I do an online baseball league called Dynasty Baseball. I also do a face-to-face league, which just finished last week. The San Francisco beat St. Louis 4-2 in the World Series. We're having our first meeting for next season this Saturday at Zeta's, and our draft is going to be November 14th. If you have an interest in coming down, Zeta's Pizza in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Be delighted to have you to join our baseball league. We play every other Saturday there. But I want to read you this article because I did not have a chance to get to other things. But here's the article. This is from the Federalist, and this is 10 major DC consensus lies that President Trump has shattered forever. And I think that President Trump has changed a lot in Washington. And I'm going to close reading this article because I think this article is very important. Okay. President Donald Trump, and this is by J.B. Shurik, by the way. President Donald Trump has shattered many things over the past 4 years, and many of them for the better, especially within Washington, D.C. Even the fact that a real estate mogul and government outsider swept the Republican primary, then defeated his established Democrat opponent, represents quite a political shakeup. I'm going to put the article here in chat right now so you can check it out later if you choose. With every major social institution cutting against conservative values and media waging a slanderous anti-Trump campaign since 2016, exposing falsehoods has also become a theme of this administration. Here are the 10 Washington lies Trump has shattered. Number 1, the press does not choose sides. The Trump era has exposed the press for what it is, an army of propagandists and saboteurs advancing narratives designed by deep state Democrats. As Molly Hemingway tweets, quote, "Holy crap, this is crazy to watch. I've noticed this for years and have commented on it publicly, but the actual words that Trump or his administration speak and their actions do not seem to have any influence at all on the narrative, the questions, or the stories." And she's quoting a tweet from the first. The media is so desperate to paint Donald Trump as a white supremacist, it seems they are going to ask the same question every day till the election. Press secretary handled these biased, agenda-driven reporters like a champ. My wife loves the current press secretary. And, my wife, the most amazing thing about the left is I started doing blogging in 2008, a month after. I started the blog just before the company I worked for folded. And it folded after Obama was elected, and I didn't get a job back in the tech industry, which is why I'm called the tech. For those of you who don't know, the reason I'm called the tech guy is my major was computer science. I was working computer science for a while. Then I left it, believe it or not, to open a comic book store. I eventually got back into the computer field, although more doing tech support because I enjoyed it more than the corporate work. And then at the time Barack Obama was elected, I had a good job. I was making solid pay, a lot more than what I'm making now, and that's before inflation. Had good benefits, had everything. And then after, it wasn't long into the Obama presidency when my company folded. I ended up on unemployment, and I tried to make a go as the tech guy, as a reporter, and it didn't work in the long run. I ended up getting the job I have as a temp back in 2015. And I grabbed it as third shift because I had to have something. And I remember the day Donald Trump was elected, I was working third shift for $9.50 an hour with no benefits. And my pay was down 55%. My 401k was gone because I used that to try and make it in the world. And for a while, it looked like I was going to be able to make a living as a pure blogger and reporter. But it didn't work out. It crashed and burned at one point. It's like all of my traffic suddenly dried up. It was amazing. My traffic was much, much higher than it is now, and much higher than it had been. And then it just stopped. It was as if someone turned a switch, which is an interesting analogy, but we'll get into that some other time. But since then, since Trump's election, my pay I've been hired full time. I have benefits. I have vacation. I have a good 401k. I have an excellent medical plan. And my pay is up 50%. And I'm not back to where I was. I'm nowhere near where I was. I'm old. I'm probably not going to be able to get a management position there. I'm probably never going to be able to get back into the computer field at my age because I'd have to catch up on so many of these other things. But I'm happy where I am. I enjoy what I'm doing. But that's the difference. That's really the difference here between Donald Trump and stuff. But the other difference is my wife, during all that time, had absolutely no interest in politics. When I talk, it's like she turned off. The last year and a half, the press has gone so overboard on Trump that she's gotten hooked on it. And now I used to tell her things and she'd never heard it, but now she hears things before I do. But back to the article, because I got myself sidetracked there. Hillary Clinton did collude with Russian agents. President Obama did spy on the Trump campaign and transition teams. Former CIA Director John Brennan did manipulate intelligence to remove evidence that Russia backed Clinton. James Comey did use the fraudulent Steele dossier to secure FISA warrants. Joe Biden did use political leverage on Ukraine to drop a criminal investigation to his son. A Chinese spy did chauffeur Dianne Feinstein for 20 years, and Biden's family did take millions of dollars for the Chinese government. And may I say, the Hunter Biden stuff really hurt Biden in the debate. I mean, that was a body blow. Although the best line in the debate, which I should have mentioned earlier in the podcast, was Donald Trump saying, people want to get open, people want to get on with their lives. Biden saying people want to be safe. That's the election in a nutshell. Do we get on with our lives, or do we remain hidden forever? These facts have been ignored by mainstream media, too busy using anonymous sources to advance one lie after the other in order to damage the American president. They despise. With few exceptions, reporters, political operatives, and finally Republican leaders called them on it. Myth number 2, there is no deep state. With the release of FBI agent William Brandt's 302 interview describing the prosecution of General Flynn by the Special Counsel's office as nothing but a means to get Trump, the evidence of vast misconduct by members of the federal government to orchestrate the removal of legitimately elected president is undeniable. Obama administration's illegally unmasked and leaked the surveilled communications of Flynn and other Trump associates. Comey targeted the president in private meetings while pretending otherwise. Andrew Weissman used the special counsel's office to protect Democrats' Russian collusion narrative while attempting to entrap the president for obstruction of justice. Eric Miller and Alex Vinderman appear to have used their national security positions to turn a Biden-Ukraine scandal into a Trump impeachment, while prosecutors and judges have harassed Trump associates for 4 years. Americans continue to wait for the conclusion of John Durham's investigation into this deep state attempted coup. There's no longer any doubt that a two-tiered system of justice exists, one for hunting Republicans and one for protecting Democrats. Number 3, Democrats own Black and Hispanic votes. Establishment Republicans predicted that the Trump candidacy would destroy inroads with Black and Hispanic voters for generations. Instead, the president has increased Republican support from both communities. Trump has proved that protecting legal immigrants, providing conditions for robust economic growth on Main Street, and treating Americans equally without compensation, rather than as members of a special race class, is a formula for success. Democrats have taken Black and Hispanic voters for granted for 60 years. Biden insists that voting Trump proves you ain't Black. Americans of all colors and creeds are waking up to the reality that Democrats have used them for their votes and give nothing in return. Number 4, Me Too is about protecting women and children. Who is Tara Reddy? If she had accused a Republican of sexual assault, she'd be well known. Because she alleges Biden attacked her, she has disappeared from the Me Too movement, just as Democrats ignored Juanita Broaddrick's allegation of rape against Clinton for decades. The Me Too movement has little time for big dog Democratic donor Jeffrey Epstein's apparent sexual trafficking of young girls, or the numerous Democrats, including Bill Clinton, connected to the Lolita Express. The movement doesn't care about Democrat donor Ed Buck, who was accused of injecting young Black male prostitutes with methamphetamines before sexually assaulting them, leading to the deaths of 2 of his victims. Me Too movement imagines Republican crimes everywhere while burying documented crimes by Democrats faster than Senator Robert Mendez can allegedly engage in underage prostitution in the Dominican Republic and get back to New Jersey. I was writing about Mendez, by the way, years ago, and everyone ignored it. Myth 5, climate change alarmism isn't about raw power. Carbon dioxide emissions in the U.S. have fallen more than any other country in the world since 2000, as America has adopted clean coal technology and transitioned towards natural gas for electricity generation. The free market and energy innovation, not institutional governance, have accomplished this feat. Regardless, climate change alarmists continue to insist that only the United States, shackled by the Paris agreements, will save the planet from a temperature increase of less than 1 degree Celsius over the next century, while ignoring China's role as the number 1 polluter in the world. This is, of course, due to Democrats' desire to control more and more of American life, including their outlandish policies, proposals like the Green New Deal. Actually, it's more due to China paying Democrats to try and advance this narrative, in my opinion. Number 6, free trade requires wrecking U.S. manufacturing and enriching China. Until Trump ran for president, few on the national stage questioned why fidelity to free trade required American towns throughout the Midwest to be sacrificed so Wall Street companies could use slavery by proxy in China to slash labor costs. Few American leaders looked at those destroyed Midwestern towns and wondered if aiding and abetting illegal immigration across the southern border might be adding insult to injury. Most of Washington looked the other way while Middle America suffered for more than any time since the Great Depression. Most of Washington laughed when these Americans asked for good manufacturing jobs to come home. Trump didn't laugh. He immediately understood that Americans had been abandoned so Wall Street and Washington insiders could make fortunes on the greatest international transfer of wealth in the history of the world. Trump asked Washington why America shouldn't have the best blue-collar workforce on the planet, and nobody had an answer. Number 7, defending unborn babies is a losing political issue. Trump is the first sitting president to speak at the annual March for Life rally in Washington. His presidency has unapologetically defended the lives of the unborn Americans, and more voters are recognizing the fight for life as the most important civil rights issue in America today. During his tenure, Trump has appointed numerous judges who will uphold the constitutional right to life, and the pro-life movement was a feature of the Republican National Convention in August. Or let's put it another way. If you kill your own future voters for 40 years and your political opponents don't, you will eventually lose elections to those political opponents. Because even in Chicago, you have to be born to vote when you're dead. Number 8, judges are nonpartisan. Federal judges have overturned Trump's legal orders at a faster rate than during any other presidency. While Obama somehow had the power to legislate deferred action for childhood arrivals, that's DACA, into existence, Trump somehow lacks the same power to undo it. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts has gone to great lengths to argue that there are no Obama judges or Bush judges, but after watching Judge Emmett Sullivan's persecution of Flynn, Americans know too many judges become political operatives and too few adhere to the Constitution as written. Number 9, Democrats aren't purging history or the Constitution. While some Republicans joined Democrats to tear down Confederate flags and monuments, Trump warned that the emotional purge was just the camel's nose under the tent. Since then, the 1619 Project has rewritten American history. Antifa and the Black Lives Matter organization have targeted statues of Washington and Jefferson for destruction, and Democrats openly call for Congress and the courts to ignore the Constitution. The political left's cultural revolution against America is in high gear now, and it's not going away. And number 10, and this is the biggest myth, the Obama administration was scandal-free. Obama is deliberately sabotaging the peaceful transfer of power by orchestrating a Russian collusion hoax that nearly took down his successor as one of the most egregious political scandals in U.S. history. His administration's efforts to use a cabal of high-ranking intelligence and law enforcement officials to conduct a disinformation campaign designed to implicate a sitting president as an agent of a hostile country can be described as nothing less than an attempted coup. And that's along with Fast and Furious, the IRS targeting of conservatives, culpability in Benghazi, the use of consent settlements to coerce companies to underwrite Democrat slush funds, and the Department of Justice cover-up of Hillary Clinton's unsecured email service and pay-to-pay schemes throughout the Clinton Foundation. The Russia hoax secures Obama's legacy as a singularly corrupt American president. Now, every year every time a new president is sworn in, I do a post on ranking all the presidents of all time. And last time I ranked Obama second to last, just ahead of James Buchanan, on the grounds that Buchanan was a very experienced diplomat and should have known better than to make the mistakes he made. And I must come to the conclusion that Obama is worse than Buchanan. I assumed Obama was ignorant, and he's not. I think that he was deliberately evil. But that's for a couple of years later. We're gonna close now, and I want to leave you with this tweet from Ronnie Jackson, who's a candidate for the U.S. House in Texas' 13th district. Well over 99% of healthy individuals in the president's age group recover completely, and most never even become symptomatic. I fully expect this to be the case with President Trump as well. That's going to be the case, and the left is going to go nuts over it. Well, we will be back next week at this time. I might be broadcasting from a restaurant. I might not. If I broadcast from a restaurant, I might be maybe 10 or 15 minutes late. We'll see about that. I'm going to go and talk to them sometime this week and see if this is possible. I want to thank you guys who were here live for being here live. Thank you for the up arrows. Don't be shy about down arrowing me if you think I do a bad job. Please share the podcast. Again, our goal is more traffic and an extra 180 a month. This month, we didn't do the extra 180, which is a pain in the neck, but that's life. But that's what we're here for. Thank you for sticking with me for an hour and a quarter for the Tech Guy Off the Radio. Until next week, this is Pete the Tech Guy saying goodbye. God bless you all. And I'm praying for you. Bye, guys.